Picture a Neanderthal hunter, built like a tank. Thick bones, powerful muscles, strong enough to wrestle a bison to the ground with his bare hands. For over 300,000 years, Neanderthals ruled Ice Age Europe. They survived brutal winters that dropped far below freezing. They hunted animals 10 times their own size. They outlived multiple ice ages that would have wiped out almost anything else. Then, around 40,000 years ago, they vanished. Meanwhile, a smaller, physically weaker species walked into their territory and thrived. That species was us. So if Neanderthals were stronger, tougher, better built for the cold, why are we the ones still here and they are not? For decades, scientists blamed the usual suspects. Maybe the climate got too harsh even for them. Maybe Homo sapiens simply outcompeted them for food and territory. Maybe there was outright conflict between the two species. But in 2026, a research team led by anthropologist Ariane Burke at the Université de Montréal put these old theories to the test against real data. And the results surprised even the researchers themselves. Climate change alone does not explain it. Competition alone does not explain it either. The real story turns out to be more interesting than a simple fight for survival. Burke's team borrowed a method from conservation biology. The same kind of modeling scientists use today to track endangered species and predict where they can still survive. They applied it to ancient humans instead, mapping where Neanderthals and Homo sapiens could realistically live across Europe between 60,000 and 35,000 years ago. This was a period when the climate swung wildly, again and again, between brutal cold stretches and brief warmer spells. What they found was this. The regions where Homo sapiens thrived were far more connected to one another than the regions where Neanderthals lived. Connected does not just mean nearby. It means linked, by trade, by movement, by relationships between separate groups, sometimes living hundreds of kilometers apart. We already have evidence of this kind of network in the archaeological record. Shells and stone tools have been found hundreds of kilometers from where they originated, passed from group to group along the way. That is not an accident. That is a network in action. When one Homo sapiens community faced a bad winter, a failed hunt, or a shrinking herd, they were not stranded alone with no options. They could reach out to neighboring groups, share tools, share knowledge of where the animals had moved, even exchange mates between groups, which kept their populations genetically healthy over time, something isolated groups struggle to do. Researchers describe these networks as a kind of safety net, one that let information about resources and animal migrations spread quickly across huge distances, one that let alliances form between strangers, one that let people move into completely new territory the moment their home ground failed them. Now, to be clear, Neanderthals were not stupid and they were not primitive. They made sophisticated stone tools, they controlled fire, they almost certainly cared for their sick and buried their dead. They even interbred with Homo sapiens, which is part of the reason traces of Neanderthal DNA still live inside most people alive today, quietly carried forward for 40,000 years. But their social networks appear to have been smaller and more fragile, especially in Eastern Europe, where Neanderthal groups were more geographically isolated from one another. That isolation did not matter much when the climate stayed stable, but this period was not stable. It swung between freezing stretches and warmer ones, over and over, for thousands of years. Every single time conditions shifted, Homo sapiens groups could lean on their network for support. Neanderthal groups, more cut off from each other, had far fewer places to turn. Over many generations, in region after region across the continent, that difference quietly began to add up. This was not one single battle, not one dramatic moment. Neanderthals did not simply disappear because they were weak. They were strong, skilled, and deeply human. But in a changing world, strength wins one fight. Connection wins the war. Homo sapiens survived because they could share food, tools, knowledge, and hope across wider networks. And maybe the most powerful survival tool in human history was not fire, not stone weapons, and not even muscle. It was connection.